To save up some money, I started working as a food delivery driver on late-night shifts. One day while working, I got an order for delivery late at night. I got in my car, picked up the food from the store, and drove off to the address provided. Usually, I got the deliveries within the familiar areas, but as I was following the GPS on my mobile, I was going towards the outskirts of the city. With each turn, the path became more unfamiliar and silent, with the only sound accompanying me was the dim hum of my engine. Delivering the food for quite some time now had me accustomed to the silence and darkness of night, but today seemed different. My car was the only vehicle running on the dimly lit streets. My unease grew as I realized that the address was leading me to a remote and desolate area far from any residential buildings. I hesitated for a moment, debating whether I should continue or turn back. Unease settled in as soon as GPS indicated arriving on the destination. My brain sent me the signal that something was wrong as the house before me looked like an abandoned, haunted house. For a moment, I thought about canceling the order, but in the end, I decided against canceling the order because I didn't want to disappoint the customer. I wondered if the address provided might be incorrect. I squinted on the phone screen to double-check the address, but it was correct. I opened the delivery app and navigated through it when a chill ran down my spine. The address on the app and the address provided to me were indeed different. While I was contemplating on whom to call, the customer or the restaurant, the sound of footsteps coming nearer made me look up from my phone. I saw some eerie-looking men approaching my car. My hand went to the lock button as I ensured all the doors were locked. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. They surrounded my car like vultures. Panic set in and my heart raced as I realized the danger that loomed. Some thugs spotted my car in this deserted neighborhood and thought that it was an easy target late at night. I frantically reached for my phone to call for help, but my trembling hands struggled to find a signal. I could hear their muffled voices outside the car discussing their plans. One of them knocked on my car window. I pulled down the window a little afraid and asked what he needed. "Your wallet and phone," he went on to point to my phone, which I was never going to give him. I mustered up the courage to refuse, but the fear in their eyes and their aggressive body language made it clear that they were not going to take no for an answer. I hurriedly rolled up the window, but before I could, he placed his palm on the open window, preventing it from shutting. I kept hitting the button, hoping that the pain in his hand, which was holding my window, would cause him to let go of it, but he didn't, instead putting his other hand on the glass as well. With his hands, he was attempting to force the window down. My heart raced as I realized that my only escape was to fight back. On one side, he was pushing my window down, and on the other, those men were continuously banging on my other car windows, creating a terrifying situation. I knew I had to act quickly. The only thing on my mind at that time was to escape from there. Summoning every ounce of courage, I reached for the pepper spray hidden in my glove compartment. I quickly retrieved the pepper spray and aimed it towards the hand of the thug, hoping to incapacitate him. My hand shook as I pressed down on the pepper spray, and a burst of fiery liquid shot out towards the thug's hand. The thug let out a scream of agony as the pepper spray made contact with his skin, but he maintained his grip on the window. I quickly started the engine. On hearing the voice of the engine, those men became anxious. The man who was holding my window down tried to snuggle his hand inside the window, but I gathered my courage and opened my side of the car door, surprising the man pressing the window down. He wasn't ready for a sudden push. His hands let go of the window in an instant. Before any one of them could get the opportunity to get in the car through the open door, I swiftly closed it back and rolled the window up. Those men, fuming in anger, started banging harder on my car. Although the situation was terrifying, my senses were alert at the moment. I started driving the car, leaving the men behind. They followed me to some distance, and then disappeared in the darkness, just as they had come. I drove as fast as I could, my heart still racing from the encounter. Terrified, I sped through the darkened streets, glancing in my rearview mirror to ensure I was not being pursued. As I finally arrived at the right destination, a wave of relief washed over me. I handed over the delivery, feeling grateful that I managed to get out of the dreadful situation in one piece. As I walked back to my car, I couldn't shake the feeling that those men were still out there. Taking a deep sigh, I turned back to go to my scooter. Life has been going hard these days. College studies weren't easy, and with that, I had to go for food deliveries as a side hustle to support my studies. My parents sent me to pursue my studies in the big city, but they couldn't afford all the expenses I had to support my studies myself. Usually I don't get tired of deliveries, but days like today when I have to deliver late at night were difficult, and thanks to nightlife, most days were like that. The next delivery was in an alleyway, which I hate the most because of the creepy feelings they give. Annoyed and scared a little bit, I went on to deliver the food. I parked my scooter on the main road and went on the narrow street, knocked on the door for a few times but didn't get any answer. I was getting more annoyed than before. Keeping standing in these alleyways was the worst. After waiting for a few minutes, finally the door opened and I hurriedly handed over the package. I had been continuously scanning my surroundings looking for any potential threat, but everything was clear, or it seemed so. On my way back I heard a noise, alerting my senses, but I didn't turn back to spot the source of sound. Scared, I started walking fast with big steps to get out of the alleyway as soon as possible. Just when I was about to turn the corner, someone grabbed my arm and pulled me back. I turned to face my assailant, fear gripping my heart. To my horror, I found myself face to face with a masked stranger, their eyes gleaming with sinister intent. A scream muffled in my mouth when a hand grabbed my mouth. My biggest fear had turned into reality. I was getting kidnapped, I thought. This thought alone was enough to scare the shit out of me. My whole life flashed before me. I struggled to get out of the grip holding me, but I was of no match to the power of the man holding me. I desperately searched for an opportunity to escape, my heart pounding in my chest. At that moment, I remembered the stories I had heard about the dangers lurking in the city at night. I was getting dragged to God knows where when my survival instincts kicked in. The hold on my mouth got loose due to my struggle, and I took the opportunity to bite the hand holding my mouth. I heard a scream, and with that grip on me loosed. Without thinking, I ran to the front, and I heard someone running behind me. I ran for my life, without looking back despite being tired. I kept running until I saw the main street ahead of me, where my scooter was parked. Acting quickly, I got on the scooter and started it just in time when the kidnapper reached me. Before he could get hold of me, I drove away, leaving the dark alley behind. The thought of what he could have done to me was enough to make me terrified. After covering some distance, I turned back to see if he was following me and couldn't find anyone. My instant instinct was to visit the police station and report the incident. They dispatched officers to investigate, but unfortunately no one was found at the scene. From what I remembered, I described the appearance of the kidnapper to the police. They assured me that they would conduct a comprehensive investigation into the matter. They promised to put in their best efforts to locate him. Overwhelmed by fear, I was scared to go home all alone. Thought of him appearing in front of me any time haunted me. That night, I was unable to sleep properly. The haunting image of the kidnapper's gleaming eyes continued to terrify me for months afterwards. Living alone does not always give the mental and financial freedom most people wish for. I can say that from the hellish experience I have of living alone in this big wide world. With the death of my parents when I was in middle school, this world became a wide hell for me. Being the only child, I was left all alone. I had to earn for myself as well as continue my education. Looking back, I really couldn't believe that I survived those days. Still, a high schooler, I do part-time jobs from delivery to cleaning. Doing these kinds of jobs gives you a range of experiences, but one of them still sends shivers down my spine upon remembering. 2 months ago, I was on part-time duty with a store delivering fried chicken. Because of my school, I had to do the nighttime duty. That day, I was going to deliver the parcels as usual. There was this one lady living alone in a big house who used to frequently order from the store where I worked. That day also, there was an order from her. She was a sweet lady. She would offer me to come inside the home and chat with her sometimes. When I reached in front of her house, I noticed that there was something unusual there. That lady would keep her front lights on no matter what, but the lights were off that day. I didn't think of that much and rang the bell like usual and waited for her to come out. When after a few minutes still there wasn't any sign of anyone coming, I rang the bell again. A few minutes passed and still, there wasn't any answer. I got worried a little. It was only 8 in the night, too early for her to sleep. Thinking this, I dialed her number, but she didn't pick up her phone either. My tension was growing as time went on. Why would have she ordered when she wasn't going to be home? Maybe there was an emergency, but as far as I knew, she didn't have any relatives in the city, or maybe something happened to her. Thoughts like these were coming into my mind. Ignoring these thoughts, I rang the bell one last time and waited for a few more minutes. Still no response. Assuming that there must be an emergency, I went ahead. I had a few more deliveries to complete. After an hour almost, when I was done with the deliveries of the day, I thought about going to that lady's house again, as her ordered chicken was left over, and I would have to take it back to the store. On reaching there, I saw a crowd of people gathered around her house. Worried, I made my way through the crowd. On asking, I got to know that almost an hour ago, 2 thieves had come into the house, and they had tied the lady and stolen all the valuable things from the house. The lady had lost consciousness due to the cloth tied to her mouth. Someone saw the thieves getting out of the house and, finding them suspicious, went to check on the lady. After getting no response, called the police. And when they searched the house, they found the lady unconscious and all the lockers and cupboards opened. I was shocked on hearing this, that when I was standing outside her home, a robbery was taking place at the house. The thought of this made me scared. I somehow felt guilty too, that if I had called the police at that time, maybe the thieves would have been caught. I felt bad for that poor lady too, as she was all alone in this world, and now she was in such a difficult situation.